Most men don't even know they're in pain. That's the first wound. Not the betrayal, not the abandonment, not the ridicule, not the years of silence they swallowed whole just to be called strong. No, the first wound is forgetfulness. You are taught to forget. Taught that your body should not flinch, that your heart should not speak, that your eyes should not hold too long on anything that hurts. And so, like most boys, you adapted. You buried the ache. You laughed too loud. You numbed too fast. You became normal. But John Bradshaw didn't buy that story. He saw behind the masks. He saw that under every so-called weak man was not failure, but fragmentation. Not weakness, but wounding. The problem is, men were never taught to name their pain. We were told to master it, overcome it, dominate it, as if pain is a battlefield where victory means silence. So what do? We turn our pain inward. We shame ourselves for feeling. We grind until we bleed. We mistake performance for healing. And we wonder why we're exhausted, burned out, furious for no reason, hollow in the middle of success. That's not failure. That's trauma unspoken. That's the soul whispering through headaches and tension and ruined relationships saying, please stop pretending you're okay. But we don't stop. We double down. We make more money. We get more approval. We lift heavier. We perform harder. Because somewhere deep down, we still believe the lie that says, real men don't break. And yet, we're already broken. But Bradshaw called it out. What we call masculinity is often just trauma in disguise. That quiet guy, he's not mysterious, he's muzzled. That overachiever, he's not confident, he's compensating. That rage, that shutdown, that disappearing act every time emotions get too real, that's not strength, it's protection. Protection built in childhood. Protection forged the first time you were told, boys don't cry, or man up, or stop being soft. And like any good son trying to earn love, you listened. You stopped crying. You became hard. You built walls. And now here you are, wondering why no one really sees you, why nothing really satisfies you, why love feels like performance, why silence feels safer than being misunderstood again. You're not weak, you're wounded, but you never had the language for it. See, men don't break down, we break apart, quietly, slowly, elegantly. We turn our suffering into socially acceptable achievements, into sarcasm, into self-isolation, into needing to be needed. And the world applauds us for it. They love the version of you that's stoic and efficient and emotionally vacant. But that applause is empty, and you know it. It doesn't touch the place in you that's still asking, why did they leave? Why didn't anyone protect me? Why do I feel more at home in loneliness than in love? These questions haunt men. They follow us into our work, our sex, our fatherhood, our silence. And if we never face them, we become what Bradshaw warned us about. Men who abandon themselves long before anyone else does. Because abandonment doesn't start when she leaves or when the job lets you go. It starts when you learn to hide your heart so well, even you can't find it. When you train yourself to be impressive instead of honest. When you stop being vulnerable, not because you don't feel, but because you were taught that feeling equals failure. And so you survive. But survival is not healing. Survival is not wholeness. Survival is not peace, it's just delay. And delayed grief becomes chronic pain. It becomes disconnection. It becomes shame that smells like pride. It becomes legacy passed from father to son like an unspoken curse. And that's what's at stake, your legacy. Because unhealed men don't just hurt in isolation. We replicate our wounds. We become fathers who can't hold space, lovers who don't trust softness, leaders who mistake control for clarity. We build empires from our pain and then wonder why they feel so cold.
We call it ambition. We call it drive. But often it's just a desperate attempt to earn back the love we didn't get when we needed it most. That's not weak. That's wounded. And unless you name it, it rules you from the shadows.
But the wound doesn't want to stay hidden forever. It waits, it leaks, it sabotages. It shows up in how fast you disconnect, in how numb you feel after sex, in the resentment you carry toward people who ask for your time, your care, your presence. And then you blame them. You call them needy, dramatic, too much. But the truth is, you're terrified of being seen without the armor. Because if they really saw you, tired, scared, uncertain, you fear they'd leave. Or worse, they'd stay and see just how broken you believe you are. So you run, you withdraw, you make your independence a virtue. But John Bradshaw would tell you this isn't independence. It's isolation dressed up as masculinity. It's the wounded boy still protecting himself in a grown man's skin. Here's the part no one tells you. Your healing won't look heroic. It won't happen in a gym or on a stage or in the arms of a woman who promises to love you no matter what. Healing will look like you in your room, alone, sitting with memories you tried to outrun. It will look like rage that finally has a name, like tears that don't need to be justified, like realizing you weren't crazy, you were abandoned. You weren't too sensitive, you were never heard. You weren't cold, you were conditioned. And the scariest part, you may have to rebuild yourself without applause, without recognition, without anyone clapping for your new boundaries, your new softness, your new refusal to fake it. That's the real work. That's the real war. Most men wait too long. They wait until the divorce, until the addiction, until the heart attack, until the suicide note, until the mirror becomes unbearable. But what if you didn't wait? What if you didn't need a collapse to justify your healing? What if you believed that reclaiming your inner child, your original self, is not regression, but revolution? Bradshaw said the wounded inner child is not just a metaphor. It is alive in you. It is the part of you that froze when your father yelled, that flinched when your mother withdrew, that curled up inside the silence of unspoken love. And that child doesn't need you to be more manly. He needs you to show up for him, finally, to stop abandoning him every time emotions get hard, to stop silencing him just to keep up appearances. He needs you to be the father you didn't have, the protector you never met. And here's where the fear creeps in. The fear every man carries but rarely names. That if I let go of the performance, I'll disappear. That if I stop being useful, I'll be unlovable. That if I show my pain, I'll lose everything. That fear isn't yours. It was given to you by a culture that punishes male tenderness, by a lineage of emotionally illiterate fathers, by a world that tells men to conquer everything but their own hearts. But here's the truth Bradshaw spent his life screaming into the silence. You don't need to conquer your wound. You need to care for it. You don't need to dominate your fear. You need to dialogue with it. You don't need to fix your past. You need to feel it so it doesn't rule your future. And when you do that, when you stop exiling the boy in you who still cries out for belonging, something shifts. You stop choosing people who punish your vulnerability. You stop begging the world to validate your masculinity. You stop competing with every man in the room because you no longer believe you're one mistake away from being worthless. You start resting. You start listening. You start feeling again, not just the pain, but the beauty. You begin to inhabit your own life instead of performing it. And yes, people will notice. They'll say you've changed. They'll say you're different. But the truth is you're not different. You're finally becoming who you were before the world told you to be someone else.
And here is the part no one prepares you for. Once you start to heal, the world around you begins to feel strange. Familiar faces now sound hollow. Spaces you used to feel comfortable in begin to echo with artificiality. Conversations that once passed for connection feel scripted, avoidant, surface level. This is the cost of clarity. Healing strips away the noise. It doesn't just return you to yourself, it reveals just how far you drifted from it. And it's here in this disorienting silence that many men relapse, not into old habits necessarily, but into the illusion of belonging, the urge to go back to being palatable, to being agreeable, to being what others expect. But that's not healing, that's progression with a smile. Bradshaw warned that healing isn't about becoming better, it's about becoming whole. And wholeness often looks like losing everything that wasn't built on truth. So the question becomes, can you sit in the stillness? Can you withstand the loneliness that comes with no longer faking it? Because many won't understand you anymore. You'll be called selfish for protecting your energy. You'll be called distant for refusing to perform emotional labor. You'll be misunderstood, even mocked. But all that noise is just a resistance of a system that was never built for wholeness, only performance. You're not wrong for stepping out of it. You're not broken because others can't follow. You're simply walking ahead. And walking ahead always means walking alone for a while. But slowly, something beautiful happens. The ache becomes familiar. The loneliness starts to feel like freedom. And then, without needing it to, someone sees you. Not the performer, not the protector, not the provider. You. And they stay not because of what you do for them, but because your presence doesn't demand illusion. That's what happens when a man reclaims his soul. He becomes a mirror, and only those willing to see themselves can bear to stay. John Bradshaw taught that shame is the root of all dysfunction, and that unspoken shame is inherited like a disease. You didn't invent your fear, you inherited it. From fathers who never cried, from grandfathers who drank their grief into silence, from a culture that worships men for their usefulness and discards them when they bleed. So now it's your turn. You either pass it on or you kill it. And killing it doesn't mean pretending it never touched you, it means confronting it, looking it in the eye and saying, I see you, and I'm not afraid of you anymore. It means letting the tears come when they need to. It means writing the letter you never sent, saying the words you never heard, holding your own hand when no one else will. And slowly, painfully, beautifully, you stop fighting yourself. You stop trying to be the man the world demanded. You start being the man you were born to be. You don't owe anyone the illusion of strength anymore. You don't owe the world your silence. You don't need to apologize for your boundaries, your clarity, your softness. That's not weakness, that's maturity. That's courage. That's leadership. The new kind, the rare kind, the kind that doesn't crush people, but heals them simply by existing. That's the man you become when you stop pretending not to hurt. When you stop seeing pain as failure. When you realize that being whole was never about being invulnerable. It was about being real. And that, brother, is the deepest rebellion there is. Because in a world built on avoidance, the man who feels fully and lives openly becomes dangerous. He cannot be seduced by distraction, shamed into obedience, or manipulated into shrinking. He knows who he is. And that kind of man doesn't chase validation, he radiates truth. So if you've been walking through your own fire, doubting whether the pain means you're failing, hear this: you're not weak, you're not broken, you are healing, you are returning, you are remembering. And yes, it hurts, but it's not the kind of pain that breaks you, it's the one that remakes you. Let it. Keep walking. The boy in you is waiting, and he's not asking for perfection, he's just asking that you don't leave him behind again. Let this be the last time you confuse survival with strength, the last time you call your disconnection wisdom, the last time you apologize for being real. You're not weak, you were wounded, but now you know, and that changes everything.